Hello and welcome to From Garden to Plate. I am Alice Erickson, the creator of this channel on YouTube. I will be teaching you my tricks and tips that will help you get the best yield out of your home garden and how to utilize one of the items that you preserved from it, such as spices or sauces, in everyday delicious meals. Throughout the channel, I will also do some tutorials on how to preserve making your own spices, sauces, and salsas. In today's episode, I will be showing you how to properly prune a rosemary and prep it to dry. Thus, you will be able to get a nice seasoning later on. I will be utilizing homemade salsa that has been previously smoked and Mexican seasoning that is homemade by making chicken tortilla soup. Oh yeah. This beautiful rosemary is almost 6 years old this year. I got it about 6 inches or so, and it is as big as and beautiful as you see it here, but it's time for a haircut. So I'm going to teach you how to properly prune this. There's a lot of growth that is just extra. You can see it's a little bit thinner. Now the rule of the thumb is never take more than 1/3 of the plant, otherwise you're going to shock it. So I go through, I use a nice pair of scissors, and I basically just cut off all that nice fresh growth. I have newspaper lined right underneath the pot just in case some of those amazing needles from the rosemary drops and I can get them later. So you just go through, trying to round it off, taking all the fresh growth. Put it in my bowl that I have right here. Interesting thing is how I keep this to be so big in the same pot is I treat it like a bonsai. What I do is I refresh the soil every year and I trim the roots underneath, and that way it'll stay the same size and it won't outgrow its home, which is the pot. Interesting story, one of my friends likes to come and just gently pat because she loves the smell of the rosemary. So I've named this rosemary Boop. All those needles falling, it's a good thing I got paper right there. I'm going to trim this on up so you can see what the finished product is. It's time to wash the rosemary. So I will use a vegetable wash. You can normally get these at the grocery store. You just buy the refill bottle and a spray bottle, so you just mist it down, move it around. The reason it's important to use the wash even on organic is because there is going to be a little bit of a residue, even if it's natural, that you want to remove because that can create off flavors. No one wants that. So I'm going to rinse these. I wanted to show you one of the best ways to remove the leaves off of the stem. So you have the stem here. See how they're all kind of going in a direction of this way? You want to go opposite. You pull, drop the leaves in the bowl, and then what you're going to do is put it on your dehydrator trays. Spread them out evenly, the leaves. Dry it per the manufacturer instruction by your dehydrator. And usually 95 degrees in 24 hours. I check it, make sure it's properly dried. I want almost bone dry, so I have no issues with moisture. And therefore I will take it, either lightly crush it, do crushed rosemary, or leave it full, or make it powder form to mix in that Italian seasoning. Wanted to show you how to properly fill a tray. I got this liner, it's a non-BPA, so nothing small will fall through on top of the metal grate that is the shelf to go inside a dehydrator. So you don't want to overfill because if it's too compact, the air cannot circulate. And now I'm just going to put it on in here. Gonna fill some more trays and get it ready. The rosemary has dried. So I'm going to take these BPA sheets, which are nice to grab the whole thing. These are a little bit longer than I want, so I'm going to be taking a knife and breaking it apart. This is the best hand position. Properly hold the knife, most control. Just gently break it apart. "24 hours at 95 is the perfect temperature. I have a very dry product. The smell right now is absolutely amazing. If I wanted to get it a little bit more of a crush, I will throw it in something like this that you make guacamole in. It's a nice stone. And then I would use this and just break it up a little bit more. And then I would place it into my jar. Which is a non-BPA container, nice and big. And that right there is a great way to store the herb. It's time to make the chicken tortilla soup that is going to be utilizing homemade salsa, which is 2 pints worth, and homemade Mexican season that is San Diego inspired. For the veggies, you're going to do 1/2 white onion chopped, 1 poblano chopped. We're doing a whole cup of black beans on the stove. They are dried, so I am going through and blasting it as high as I can and on a boil, and I'm going to go for the duration of an hour. I'm doing 32 ounces of chicken broth that is poblano based as well, so totally a bonus. 1 frozen bag, 10 ounces worth of corn. And as a topper, I will be using tortilla chips that are cassava flour, and the base oil is avocado, so therefore nice and healthy. And of course, Mexican cheese. Last night, I cooked the chicken breast, which is 1 full and 2 thin ones that are organic, free range, in a crock pot for 4 hours on low, in my homemade salsa. So that's already prepped and ready to use. I am preheating my Dutch oven to be prepared for the onions to start the soup. I like to caramelize the onions a little bit. It gives the flavor out. So I'm going to be using avocado oil. Avocado is one of the most healthy oils because there is no issue with inflammation in your body, the free radicals, and your body can digest it easier. And it's just all around better to use, and it's like olive oil, you can go real high heat with it. So I got my onion. I'll start those. I am going to allow those onions to sweat a little bit, and then what I will do is add my Mexican seasoning. So it will open up and essential oils from the peppers that are in my seasoning and other flavors from like the herbs, it will have a much more of an impact of flavor. The onions are starting to sweat, so it's a perfect time to add the Mexican seasoning. I have made sure to use the Morrison pestle, that way the seasoning has more of impact of flavor as well. Just sprinkle it over the onions. I like to use a bouillon base also at this point. Since it is a chicken recipe, I will be using a chicken base. Let that go right in. Move the onions around. I make sure I got the seasoning and the bouillon base evenly distributed over the onions. Let them cook for a little bit. That gets a nice caramel. And then I will be adding the broth and deglazing the bottom of the Dutch oven. The black beans are coming out nicely. I have a teapot on the side for boiling water. So if I need to add more, I can. I flavored the water with the Better Than Bouillon chicken base. I also used 1 tablespoon of my Mexican seasoning. The reason I'm doing dried beans is because it'll absorb the flavor instead of doing a canned version, which is already pre-flavored by another manufacturer. I just like to add more intense flavor to the beans. Tastes better in the soup. I have deglazed the pan with a little bit of broth, and I added the poblanos. That way they can cook down and they can flavor the base of the broth and also be penetrated by the flavor. You don't want to add all of your broth at this point, because if you do, it won't have as much of a impact of flavor. So right now I'm just making sure I got a nice simmer going so that way they get cooked. And here shortly I will be adding the corn, adding a little bit more broth, and then of course I'm going to add the best part, my salsa and chicken mixture. It has been about 10 minutes that the poblanos and the onion mixture have been going, so this is a great time to place in the corn. I am going to add more broth at this point. Mix everything. Make sure I scrape the bottom. I'm going to bring that back up to a simmer. That way the corn releases its natural flavor into it. And then after that I will add my chicken and salsa. I have been simmering in the Dutch oven for a good 5 minutes. So this is the perfect time to add the most important part, the salsa and chicken mixture. Let's give it a nice mix. That way the combining of the flavors are nice and even. I am going to pour the other 32-ounce broth that has poblano base. One more mixture because I just added the broth. Bring that up to a nice simmer again. That way the flavors combine. That'll take probably about 10-15 minutes to get there. Good point. It has been almost an hour that the beans have been going. I have been boiling on high. It's a double boil. Double burner. So I'm going to take the beans, use a spoon like this. Mix them into the soup. Mix it into the rest, and then I will serve and crumble some tortilla chips on top. Gonna give this a nice try, let you know what the flavors are. Smoky, there's a tiny little bit of heat in there, balance of flavors. It's quite delicious. Thank you so much for watching today. I do hope to see you soon.